Welcome to This Explainer. You know, we spend a lot of time analyzing complex systems and hard data on here, but today we're going to unpack something profoundly different. We're looking at a deeply personal testimony about the human spirit. It's a story about finding your way back when you feel completely, utterly lost. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by your circumstances, or honestly, if you're carrying a weight right now that just feels impossible to lift, I really want you to know This Explainer is specifically for you. So take a deep breath and let's walk through this journey together. So how do you find your way back when you've completely lost yourself? It's a really heavy, daunting question, isn't it? When you're staring down at a totally broken situation, the sheer exhaustion of it all can make you feel entirely trapped. I think we've all had those moments where we look around and realize we don't even recognize the person staring back at us in the mirror anymore. It's this universal feeling of losing your grip on the wheel and just staring into a reality you never ever intended to create. Section 1. Feeling completely lost. The source material we're looking at today details a fierce, deeply personal battle with addiction, specifically gambling. And it describes the quiet, almost invisible way addiction operates. Because it doesn't just empty your bank account, right? It quietly steals your peace. It erodes your trust in yourself, and it slowly strips away your control over your own life. The source illustrates how that slow fade actually happens in this exhausting, repetitive cycle. You tell yourself, okay, this is the last time. And you mean it. You truly, deeply do. But then you fall back into the exact same cycle. And with every single fall, you're carrying a much heavier burden of shame and regret until you reach a total loss of control. Think of it kind of like trying to walk on a fractured bone without putting a splint on it. Every single time you attempt to fix things on your own, to just walk it off, you end up collapsing again. And the damage and the shame just gets worse. The crucial point here is captured so beautifully in the source material. I just felt tired of myself and tired of everything I was going through. That word, tired, it carries so much weight here. We are not talking about just needing a quick nap. We're talking about a profound mental, financial, and emotional emptiness. If you're watching this right now and you're carrying that exact same weight today, I really want to validate that exhaustion for you. It is incredibly heavy. And feeling tired of your own cycles, that is a deeply, deeply human experience. Section 2. Reaching your lowest point. Now, as terrifying as hitting rock bottom is, our source reveals it as the ultimate turning point of their entire testimony. It is that terrifying but absolutely necessary moment where self-reliance finally ends. Because when you literally have no strength left to fight the current, you finally stop thrashing around. And paradoxically, that is the exact moment when true healing actually has the space to begin. Which brings us to this concept, honest prayer. In the source's experience, they didn't suddenly get super strong. They didn't suddenly find incredibly confident, perfectly articulated words to speak to God. No, it was just the simple act of asking for help in their own broken way when they just couldn't rely on themselves anymore. It wasn't about some rigid religious formula. It was just a raw, completely imperfect plea from a place of total, absolute surrender. Section 3. Grace arrives where you stand. Once that honest prayer was spoken, things actually began to change, revealing this beautiful paradigm shift. Because the realization here is that spiritual support doesn't wait for you to perfectly get your act together. It arrives precisely during our moments of absolute failure. It steps right into the mess with you. On the left side here, we have the lie that keeps so many people trapped. I must fix myself first. But on the right, we see the reality our source discovered. He meets me where I am. Think of grace like sunlight trying to enter a really dark room. You don't have to completely rebuild the whole house and sweep the floors before you're allowed to open the blinds. You just let the light in through the cracks, exactly as the room is. You don't fix yourself to get to grace. Grace meets you to begin the fixing. And I absolutely love this distinction noted in the source. My situation didn't change overnight, but my heart started to change. Because we really have to be realistic here. The external circumstances, the financial debt, the real world's consequences of addiction, they didn't just magically disappear in a poof of smoke. But the internal shift was incredibly real. Why? Because the source realized God never walked away during their mistakes. Even in the deepest, darkest failure, they were never actually alone. The heart changed, because that crushing isolation was finally broken. Section 4, the step-by-step recovery. Because once the heart changes, that's when the hard work begins. But it's work done with a completely new foundation. True strength is rebuilt gradually, right? Not instantaneously. So let's break down the actionable path drawn directly from this testimony. Step 1, stop relying on yourself. Just take off that immense pressure of having to be your own savior. Step 2, pray an honest, imperfect prayer. Just speak your brokenness. Step 3, accept grace exactly where you stand right now with zero conditions. And step 4, rebuild your strength step by step. God gave the source the strength to stop certain habits and the strength to actually wire their brain to think differently over time. If you want to begin your own recovery today, these 4 steps are a great starting path. The reality of the journey is so wonderfully simple, not perfect, but clearly not where I used to be. The source is very open and honest that they're still on their journey. It is not about achieving sudden, flawless perfection. It's about gaining the strength to stop destructive habits and literally wire your brain to think differently, just one day at a time. I feel like this builds such genuine compassion for the fact that recovery is an ongoing daily process. You just have to be able to look back and say, hey, I'm moving forward. Section 5. You are not beyond hope. Listen, I really want to speak directly to you right now, especially if you're watching this and you're feeling like you are simply too broken, too messy, or just way too far gone for things to ever get better. The entire point of analyzing this source today is to shatter that illusion for you, leading to this incredibly powerful final declaration. Because if God could reach me at my lowest point, I believe he can reach anyone. Because the author of this testimony couldn't save themselves, and yet they were not given up on. And the logical conclusion there is that neither are you. Grace doesn't have a depth limit. It doesn't run out just because you feel like you've hit a new low. It reaches all the way down. So we're going to end on this final, somewhat provocative thought. If grace is waiting for you right where you stand, not waiting for some future, perfectly improved version of you, but the you that exists right at this very second, what is your next step? You don't have to fix the whole staircase today. You just have to take the very first honest step toward the light. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I truly, truly hope you find that strength today.